How are you guys? Good morning. Okay, so today I'm going to talk about intelligence and specifically how artificial scaled and scalable intelligence is going to make this AI-enabled world a reality. Because guys, AI is hard. And so how do we make it work? First, if we talk about intelligence, we need to talk about what it is and what it is not. So intelligence is not data. We do not, we humans, go around the world, collect data for the sake of collecting data. We don't do that. We don't go around the world and collect data and make predictions for the sake of making predictions. No. Our intelligence, our human intelligence, is rated on its ability to make decisions. Decisions that are good or bad, we learn from them, and we learn from them, we can become better at it. So AI is about this. It's about making decisions, not about data, not about predictions. And so when we talk about decisions, there was a framework which was developed by the US Air Force way back 60 years ago. This is after an event which hopefully will not recur. It's called the Korean War. And in the Korean War, you had Chinese fighter pilots fighting American fighter pilots. And the US Air Force tasked a colonel by the name of John Boyd and asked him to understand the outcomes of dogfights, these fights between fighter pilots. And he came up with this framework here called the OODA loop. The OODA loop stands for observe, orient, decide, and act. Observe is using your senses, your eyes and your ears to make models of your circumstances, the world you see, the world you hear, right? And then you take that and you orient it, you compare it against what you know, what you've learned so far, your training, your ontology, your knowledge of the world. And then you decide. You pick the best option to execute. Hopefully it's going to work, and then you act, right? You act. And once you've acted, obviously the world has changed. And therefore, once the world has changed, you observe again. And you go through the loop over and over again. And what Mr. Boyd found, this is 60 years ago, was that the most successful pilots were not the ones with the best set of eyes, not the one best at observing, not the one that were best in training, not the best at orienting, and so on and so forth. The best pilots were the ones that were going through the loop as often and as quickly as possible. So, Mr. Boyd was telling us that surviving, learning, adapting is key to winning. And what's interesting is you can take all these steps and embed that in AI. You can have AI address each of these steps, different approaches, different models, but you can have AI perform this closed feedback loop, make decisions, and learn from that. The problem has been that historically AI has been good at doing it in a low dimensionality, not a high dimensionality. Let me give you an example. Targeted advertising, low dimensionality. High frequency trading, low dimensionality. If you trade at 10 microseconds, you don't need to know a lot about the world. You just need to know one thing, and that's the order book and the depth of the order book. But if you trade now at a day or a week or months, right, you've got big positions that are impacted by this macro world, you have to understand a lot more about the world. And historically, AI has had a hard time going from this low dimensionality to this high dimensionality framework. And this is where it's heading now. But to head there, you have to have this type of things. This is directly taken from our corporate presentation, so I'm going to do a little pitch here. The point is, you can only scale AI and address these high dimensionality problems if you apply the state-of-the-art, so novel, highly performing constructs, AI constructs and technologies, and scale that to the hilt, apply an enormous amount of compute power. And that's not easy to do. But if you solve it, if you solve this problem of dimensionality, and now you're able to address a lot of different business problems, because every industry, every vertical that we've built in this world is based on human intelligence, and if you can augment, replace, or even leapfrog human intelligence, then every business becomes game. And so a lot of people care. You care, I care. Now let me give you a few examples now of how this is impactful. Sepsis, which is a blood infection problem, is the #1 cause of mortality in American ICUs, intensive care units. It kills you one out of every other time. So if you're impacted, if you're affected by the ailment, you've got 50% chance to die. It's a $20 billion a year cost to ICUs in the US. So the problem is it's not predictable. You cannot predict sepsis. Nobody has predicted sepsis. And so the challenge that we were given is, can you predict sepsis ahead of time? Can you know 30 minutes ahead of time whether a patient is going to go into criticality? And we were able to do that with 91% accuracy. That's scaled AI for you. It can save lives. Now, let me talk about another type of approach, an even higher dimensionality. I used to think of websites as static properties. So every few months, or every 6 months, every year, we would go to the marketing department and say, hey, I need a new website, right? And then the marketing department would go and design a new website, and then would launch typically an A/B testing. So we have a new website, maybe we want to test whether it's doing better than the old one. So this whole industry of A/B testing came up. But what if your website was dynamic all the time? What if it was able to react to your audience, self-evolve, progressively become better and better in real time, dynamically? And that's the type of things that this approach is able to do. And of course, if you do websites, then you can do many other things, advertising, content. So this is an example. If you're trying to compute the factorial of these numbers on top of the screen, this search space that you traverse is unfathomable. It is so large that you will never have the time to traverse it. So it's not about a search model. It's about intelligence. It's about building, evolving solutions that are intelligently built and progressively test, not all of them, but a small fractions of them, intelligently to evolve progressively better and better outcomes. And that's what you see on the right-hand side, a system that progressively becomes better. And what's interesting is the little known secret of A/B testing is that 6 times out of 7, the test fails, because the legacy website is better than a new website that the marketing people have built. In this type of a deployment, across dozens and dozens of deployments, we never had one failure. The system always evolves to something better. And if it evolves online, then why would you even stop the evolution? You can always keep it on. Always gets better. Now, we talk to you about even more interesting stuff around how we begin to solve the food problem. MIT has this great initiative called CyberAg, where they take what they call a food computer. It's actually a container of sorts. It can be 40 feet long, or it can be 2 meters long. And then they are able, through actuators, to dictate every single parameter that goes into growing a plant. It can be lighting, temperature, humidity, nutrients, what have you. And the idea is, can you inject AI in this thing to drive the actuators and understand how you built a better plant? You grow a better plant, that may be the right term. And of course, we don't know really how plants grow. It's a black box, effectively, but we know the inputs and we can gauge the outputs, right? And if we do that, then you can get to new recipes, novel recipes that the world has never discovered before. And in this case here, this is a basil actually, you can grow a better basil. And you can also grow more, right? So it's both quality and quantity. AI driving a black box process, which is growing a plant. And if you think of black box problems, we have a lot of black box problems in this world. Many, many workflows are black boxes in enterprises, organizations, and so on and so forth. Now let's face it, and I said it at the beginning, AI is hard. AI as a service is not around the corner. People who say that are fundamentally wrong. Yes, you can begin to dabble into the enablement of your organization through AI, but fundamentally, if you want to change your business model, your workflow, if you want to change the world, it's going to take time, and it's going to be hard. Case in point, when our good friends DeepMind at Alphago, or rather our good friends DeepMind at Google, trying to build the Alphago system, which was a phenomenal success. And you remember how it beat the world champion last year. When they did it, it took them a couple of years and 15, 20 PhDs. So think about this. 15, 20 PhDs for 2 years. That's 30 to 40 PhD man-years. This is a lot of time, a lot of headaches to manage, and a lot of money, right? And those guys, for 2 years, they worked on architecting 2 deep learners, so 2 neural networks and 1 decision tree. Did a great job, but it took a long time. Can you solve this? Can you make that process scalable by replacing these 30 to 40 PhD man-years with 1 intern, 3 months, and 5,000 GPUs? Can you do that? And that's what we're doing. How do you solve the scalability problem of AI? Is by doing this. This is a process called Neuro Evolution, where instead of using PhDs to evolve the hyperparameters or the structure of a deep learner, of a neural network, can you use evolution, a learning system, to evolve what you see on the screen, evolve effectively intelligence. And if you begin to do that, it's not a process that takes 1 minute. It takes some time. As I said, 3 months, 5,000 GPUs. But it doesn't take you 2 years and 30 PhDs, right? And if you begin to do that, then you effectively enable scaled AI. And then you can apply this to many different types of industries. So in closing, I'm going to say that this is the future. This is the ability to take these workflows, these applications, and AI enable them without the need of deep expertise, both domain and technology. With this, I believe that this world will be AI enabled, and the way to do this will be what you just saw, Neuro Evolution. Thank you very much.